how I want to wrap things up here today is I want you to give me what your best case scenario is for the Cotton Bowl and what your worst case scenario is for the Cotton Bowl. Give me your best case first. I want to hear some optimism from Garrison.
Best case scenario is the offense keeps doing what they're doing. I think if the offense continues to do what they do, there's nothing anyone can do about us. And it's because I don't believe the defense will give up much. This team has given up more than 20 points twice this season. And the second time they did it, which was last week, a little fluky because it happened in garbage time.
Yep.
So it'll be the offense continues to click. And then worst case scenario is if Texas defensive line gets if they get pressure. I think that's the worst case scenario.
I think my best case scenario is the defense plays even better than what I think they will. And Texas still has no answer for their offense, and they win this game 42 to 10, maybe 7. I just don't see again, that'd be best case scenario where all of a sudden Texas realizes, oh, we have not seen an offense like this. I think worst case scenario is all of a sudden Texas gets a couple turnovers from Ohio State. Will Howard has some bad interceptions like he did against Michigan. They miss a couple field goals, and all of a sudden they just don't really are able to, come back for it. I don't see any scenario in which Ohio State's offense is slowed or stopped completely. What I could see is like I mentioned before, is they end up beating themselves with turnovers, missed opportunities there. And I think that's probably the only way that they lose this game. I think worst case scenario is they lose on like a last, they lose by 6 or something. I mean, that kicker's not making a field goal to win the game. Bert Auburn is not doing that. We saw that against Arizona State. So, it would have to be at least a 6-point game for them to happen. I think that's my worst case scenario, but I don't know.
Okay, so there's something I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And it has to do with Tavian Sinclair.
Okay.
So with him having all these extra practices at Ohio State right now, because he doesn't get to play,
yep,
but he does get to practice. Do you think that is going to have any effect on this quarterback battle coming into next season?
I mean, it definitely helps that he's getting reps against these good offenses. I mean, I'm sorry, against this really good Ohio State defense. He's not getting first team reps,
of course,
but he's getting reps against guys right now who have a chance to move into a starting lineup next year because of how many guys Ohio State's losing. I definitely think that's beneficial. With bowl practices, you're able to get these extra snaps that he wouldn't have gotten, had he enrolled in the summer. So, I think it's definitely beneficial to him.
Right.
So I think it's going to make a huge difference to determine whether or not he or Sayan ends up starting. Not really. I think, but I at this point, it's between those two. I mean, with Aragon, I don't think Kean Holtz is really going to have much to say about it. I mean, Devin Brown's obviously gone.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised that he hasn't declared for the transfer portal yet?
Kean Holtz, a little bit. I could see him doing it after the season's over, though. I mean, because Ohio State, once their season is over, whether it's the Cotton Bowl or the national championship, they would have to. They would have 5 days to declare for the transfer portal. So that's how long it would still be open for him. So I could see him doing that. I do think there's going to be at least a handful of guys that declare once the season's over, no matter when that ends up being, just because they kind of wanted to They didn't want to rock the boat. They wanted to keep, the run maybe to a national championship going. They didn't want to create a distraction. Some of these guys might end up, deciding to go elsewhere. But I don't think it significantly changes. Like I said, I don't think Sabian's reps significantly change the quarterback battle. What about you? Also, Angry Buckeye, I would love that score.
Oh no! If that happened, I would start calling this the greatest college football team of all time.
Yeah.
I would spill some very sick narratives here. I somewhat agree with you. I do. I think that it won't have much to do with it, but I think it does help him get used to the college speed. Gets the guys around him more familiar with him.
Yeah.
That's a big part of being in a locker room is having guys be familiar with who you are. And I think it gets him in front of the coach a little bit more.
Sure.
You got to be able to show that before you can play at this level, you got to practice at this level. You got to practice at a high level. Have I always believed in practice makes perfect? No. But you do need to make sure that you are performing in practice because especially
it does when you're
younger,
a true freshman.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when you're a true freshman, you get yourself seen. So there's that. If you don't mind, so what do you? And this is a fun question for you. In the aftermath of the Ohio State Oregon game, how do you believe Oregon fans are taking it, and how do you believe the national media is taking it?
I wouldn't say certain Oregon fans are not taking it well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Oregon fans are bitching about the college football system. They're blaming the loss on the system. Oh, it's because of the long layoff. Look, every team that had the layoff lost. Every team that had the bye lost. It's clearly a disadvantage. Like, dude, with this long of a season, you want that rest because you are banged up. Especially a team like Oregon, they ran through the regular season. They didn't have a bye week. They had it early. They were able to get some much needed rest after going to a Big Ten championship, winning the Big Ten. They have 3 weeks off. That really helps the body.
Right.
You can't. I quite frankly, I think it's a little shit that they're starting to use that as an excuse. I think they're just trying to cope. Quite frankly, I think it's just a coping mechanism. In the national media, I think some are using that as a cop out for their agendas, maybe specifically from the SEC. Some SEC fans are using that. Members of that big network are to help explain how there's only one SEC team left. But I obviously don't think that played a massive part in it. I do think it factored in a little bit. There is a rest versus rest argument, but it didn't make a 20-point win difference. What do you think?
I think it's hilarious. I think it's laughable. Luke. May's mad, man. He knows him. Luke. It's something like when Luke said to me that in the second half, his team, they came alive and they played better in the second half. They didn't let us score, and I said, whoa. And so I did my little homework real quick. I looked at the depth chart. At the play chart. Once we scored. We passed the ball 6 times before we in getting that 41st point.
Yeah,
dude, we passed it 2 more times after that on 2-3 different drives, just 2 more times. If Ryan Day really wanted to, he would have dropped 60 on you guys.
for sure.
And we easily could have dropped 60 on Oregon. We really could have. And
any Oregon fan that thinks they could have possibly competed in that game in the second half after we took the foot on the pedal, they're just lunatics.
Yeah.
The result of the game is the result of the game. They got their ass kicked by 20 points. Their season's over. Ohio State's moving on. So, that's the way I see it.